Thank you for choosing to share this room and this experience with me and Cully, who's here to help me out because we want to make this as diverse and fun as possible. So you're more than welcome to participate. You can heckle if you want. You can arrive late if you want. It doesn't matter. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. So, what do you say we get cracking, yeah? Oh, by the way, just wanted to, because I have to caveat this. It's not about engineering. It's not about product, but there is some AI. Who here loves some AI, yeah? Woo! Right on. It's about a mission today, yeah? It's about a goal. And it's a strange thing to say, right, at a conference about EE, right? But it's an idea that shaped how I come to work, how I show up every single day. And this talk is about my experiences, some lessons that I learned, and some of the things that I practice. So hopefully you'll be leaving here with something of a mental model. You'll be leaving here with some of my own stories that you can retell and make even better with your friends and family. And Kali here will be sharing some stories of themselves. And I've seated some people here to tell me about their little stories. And some people I will pick on, for example, from time to time, like Rita. Where's Rita? There you go. Hey, buddy. Right. So a little bit about myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Dave Sammut. I do domain-driven design, architecture. I love to code and everything, but Simon won't let me code all the time. Simon, where are you? Thank you. And I just really enjoy being a consultant. I just enjoy sinking my teeth into problems. I used to live in London for like 10 years, and then because of COVID and whatnot, blah, 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 we moved down to Malta. And now I'm working in the EU with the Netherlands business unit. Anyone here, Hoop Holland? Anyone here from Holland? Hey. Let's give a round of applause. Woo. Anyone here from Malta? Auschi Malti? There's never one. Damn it. Yeah. But essentially, this comes from it's okay to say this, my career spanned successes and failures. Sometimes successes without me really doing much more than my normal job, and failures coming from me just doing my normal job because I didn't really raise my head up. I didn't really do anything about that. So it occurred to me that the failures were actually the signal that I should be paying attention to. Now, Mr. Churchill captured something that I think is at the heart of what I do nowadays. Before, I never used to do this, but nowadays, this is what I do. Now, this talk is about fire seeking, not about firefighting. Now, the first time I did this talk, someone said, yeah, but we do firefighting all the time. They clearly missed the point. Hope that person isn't here right now. But essentially, who here has witnessed firefighting at the job? Great. Who here enjoys the firefighting aspect of your job? Of course. And who here is on a gig currently that they do firefighting for part of their day? Right on. Now Cully, are you currently firefighting at your job? Or do you enjoy it? Right, okay. He has a speaking part later on, so don't worry. Don't feel sorry for him, okay? Please. So imagine, I talk about fires, imagine it's the forest, yeah? The forest is the client, it's these fires that come up, and sometimes these fires, we see them and we recover. Who here has been a successful firefighter, for example? You put out the fires, right? You're cool. Sometimes fires get out of control, right? Sometimes fires just, they have repercussions, and they sometimes, they're the cause of the engagements not ending so well. And they erode trust. You may lose your confidence. And the sales, the sale promises of that starting that new engagement, they just fade away. It just goes away. And the worst thing is, I guess, client refunds. No one likes client refunds. He does it because it's the right thing to do, and that's why I love working with this company. I think it's great. I've not seen this before. But we want to avoid these things. So we need to get ahead of these fires, and without panicking. And this is what the essence of what I want to talk to you today. Having some sort of system, a model, some heuristics, something to guide us along the way. Now, I've been around for a while. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I started out as a junior consultant. You know, the huge monitors, I mean, like not huge, but they're big and everything. You couldn't really carry them on your own. And the small phones. Who had a flip phone here? Like the Samsung flip phone? Yeah, cool. The Motorola, yeah. And Morpheus. Morpheus was telling us to choose the red pill or the green pill. Which pill did you choose? All of them, all the pills, all the time. And who here had a Hotmail account? I still have one. I don't know the password, but it's really good for getting access to Wi-Fi at airports. Eh? Who loves that? And we listened to Linkin Park, Avril Lavigne, Skater Boy. McKill's a skateboarder, by the way, ex-skateboarder. And Limp Bizkit was the soundtrack to when we were asking Jeeves about what's on the internet, what's happening there. So what I'm saying here is that it's been a while. It's been a while, and I found myself thinking about, well, here's some of the excuses that came up when things didn't go as well. So for example, it was definitely their fault. They lacked a clear mission. There was misalignment from the start, from the onset. Leadership clearly didn't care enough to fix it, and they hired us too late. We were destined to get on a death march. Now, are there any excuses that you've heard here that you'd like to share with the rest of us? For example, Rita is primed to tell us one.
Always. Don't understand what you're releasing, therefore you can't release it.
Right. Anyone else?
They can't influence the leadership.
They can't influence the leadership. Anyone else? I see the two more at least on this talk. Not a problem. So, but this was my favorite quote. It was one of my favorite movies, and if you squint a little, you can see that kids here are the current leadership. The leadership, they just weren't ready for equal experts' secret sauce. For all the good they were bringing, they're like, no. And we'd say, oh, maybe the next ones. So how might we change the trajectory of these engagements? Now, if we fast forward to today, you know, we start engagements. We have the promise of the sale. There's agreement, there's enthusiasm. We kick off a new project. It's the honeymoon period. There's bliss. You know, if you join a project midway through, sometimes it's like, okay, well, there's already a toxic environment or things aren't great. But in the beginning, there's that honeymoon period, right? It's absolute bliss. You start off with a team of smart, humble, and curious. They bring gluten-free and dairy-free snacks to the office, which is great. And the client is sharp and they're open to advice. They're hanging off our every word. Their forest is filled with topiary here. I had no idea they called that before I Googled it. It's amazing. And they're hanging off your every word. They want to hear what we have to say. You know, imagine like your build monitor, like it's green all the time, right? Or for example, when you're driving home and there's no red lights, it's just green. Or for example, when you're on the district line on home and you find an empty carriage during rush hour. No, okay. Maybe an empty seat, but it's by the window. And you're not standing under somebody's armpit, for example, on your way home. It's the bliss mode. And that's when they loved us until they didn't. And that's when the universe, or somewhere, somehow, they just don't want us to succeed. You get these things, these stumbling blocks, the flaky test case, for example, the red lights, the road rage, the traffic jams, and the armpit and the delays on the district line return, and you're stuck there. Who's been ever stuck? That was not my pet. Who's been stuck in the district line or on a tube line in the heat? I mean, it's just horrible. Not many people. Nice one, a heckler. I know I get one. Amazing. But yes, and so enter the fires. Enter the fires. And this is why, using the metaphor of the forest, here we have the fires. And fires are systematic. And sometimes the fires, sometimes we create the fires ourselves. Yeah? Sometimes we create the fires ourselves. So, for example, and these are just some of the types of fires that we see, but there was this instance at a client where the product manager was micromanaging all of the team because they had a technical background. And so the team were building, precisely, they had a technical background. And what was happening, they were working on this very complex platform It did voice processing and all that stuff. So it was very, very complex, very low latency was a key thing. And what was happening was that the team recognized that, we need to repay some technical debt because we're suffering from software entropy. Fixes are taking longer, code is having more and more negative consequences, etc. And this is a fire. And left untouched without doing anything, it veers towards catastrophe. Another one is we went to this client and we embedded a team of developers, and the way they structured their teams were just so inefficient. They just weren't set up for success. It's just wrong, the way they were doing things. And another one is at a government department I was working where technical debt was just rampant. It went unmanaged whatsoever. And I tried to make a distinction there. I tried to say, hey, okay, guys, what's conscious technical debt versus unconscious technical debt? Meaning that there's a pattern that you could use, but you're unconsciously not using it. But then when there's no maturity in that space, you're consciously incurring technical debt. Well, they had none of this stuff. They didn't have a model to think about that. They were just building and building and building to the point where they had a rolling pin every day, and whoever had the rolling pin could commit code into the repository. It's not great. It's not great. And then they had the pin for 2 days because they were delayed, etc., etc. And Kali, I don't know if you want to share one of your experiences about fire. Round of applause for Kali.
Hello, everybody. I realised sitting there that when automation comes, this role is going to go first, because you could seriously have just put this into a text-to-speech thing. I've got some examples here, but really it got me thinking about a conversation I had with Saqib earlier, which is we're humans. We are so good at finding new normals. Whether we break a limb or something happens, you will get used to it and you'll adapt. And when we're in environments and something gets a bit crap, we get used to it. And it's like the new normal, and we cope with it because we're awesome, we're humans. So you asked for some real examples of crises as catalysts for change. I don't normally read from this book, but I was preparing this morning. First one, hey, there's a civil servant, a client, who's crying in their car in the car park. Ooh, what could that be about? We hear the client saying, they're not equal experts anymore, they're evil experts. There is, you look around and you realise, hang on a minute, why is everybody just really angry all the time? And when you're looking around, it's like, everybody's really busy, but nobody's got it. Nobody's got, like, what's actually going down. And another one that's came to mind is, like, this happens really often where you just no longer have time with people that you need to have time with. People have created another Slack channel. People have created another Teams channel. People have cancelled their one-to-ones with you. They don't turn up anymore. You've lost that audience. Until slide 10.
Thank you. We'll be hearing more from Kali. Woo! So, their own experiences, right? And sometimes people don't do anything, or even worse, they don't know what to do or how to go about it. So, I want to introduce the Atticus. He's a COBOL developer. Any COBOL cats in the house today? Come on, there's always one. Yes. Thank you, Craig. And he's also a comfort dweller. Who has here heard of comfort dwelling before? Right. So now, when you go out into the world, I want to make this trend. Okay. So comfort dwelling is people who avoid the flames, and Atticus knows that he knows it's wrong. He's taking order and performing tasks. He's not doing anything about it. He's staying in his lane. He's just not doing anything about it. Now, if he doesn't do anything about it, what's going to happen to Atticus? He's either going to leave. He's going to split. I'm not going to take this anymore. But that largely depends on the buoyancy of the market, right? And opportunities, right? Bless you. Also, if he stays, and it's inevitable, and you'll forgive me for this, he risks burning out. So Atticus is part of a team as well. And this is where AI comes in to help us. Because ChatGPT just cooked up an image of a cat in the exact same frame. It was pretty impressive. This is the first shot I did this. But here we have Deborah Jo, and she's also a comfort dweller. And she agrees with Atticus that things aren't quite right. And they complain about it around the water cooler, having a coffee and everything. But they choose not to do anything about it. So it's not just a phenomenon of one person. It's a group of people. And maybe together they're bringing themselves down further. Right? You have to come up with all this enthusiasm, all of a sudden you're both kind of, whatever, let's not do anything. So I've seen my fair share of Atticus and Deborah Jo types, and I too have been, in this case, a comfort dweller here. Has anyone else here found themselves in a situation where they've witnessed something and maybe chose not to do anything about it for whatever reason? Come on. And if you've not, if you've always done that, that must be exhausting.
It can be exhausting trying to do something about it as well.
Exactly, precisely. And when I was an independent, just very briefly, you go into somewhere with all this enthusiasm, yes, you get there, and all of a sudden there's this wall of resistance. And then when I return to equal experts, it's like, okay, we have a fighting chance here. So there's a lot of value in that. And so what are some of the profile characteristics of Atticus and Deborah Jo? By the way, these are names that my daughter gave me, so forgive me. They avoid conflict. Now, for example, I was at an engagement where we're on site with developers. I was the hands-on architect there, and we had the client there, and we were standing around there, and we had this lead developer. He was good. But man, he had some serious behavioral issues. He would go off on developers, like dressing them down, like really getting upset. He had too much passion. Maybe he wasn't hugged enough as a kid, but he had too much passion. And in front of the client, this guy's screaming at this other developer. And I was shocked. But the thing is, I saw this building up. I remember every morning before I used to go to the office, I used to go to Starbucks across the street. I had my Starbucks loyalty card, so I get a free shot. I would have a triple shot coffee just to get through the day. No, but that tells you something about I only have 2 shots now, but it tells you something about it. And this guy was yelling. It was yelling at him and everything. And the owner of the company was there. And I was there witnessing this too. The owner of the company was, you know what he did? He went like this to him. Dude ignored him completely. The client was shocked. The guy burnt out. He had to take months off. I did nothing in that space. I did nothing. I said, look, hey, not my clown, not my circus. Just to give you another example, there was this overly complicated architecture because domain-driven design and CQRS were the best. And they were the best for everything, every single thing. And you know what's even better? They had this one team that developed scaffolding for the rest of the developers, like maybe 4 or 5 teams of developers, to build along these scaffolding. Very prescriptive. Even if you were just doing a simple pass-through function, you had to do code here, code here, code here, code here, code here, code here. And zero trust. And you know what the shocking thing was? Is that the developers on the team were super smart, and I knew them. Really smart people. They did nothing for the longest time. Shocking, isn't it? But they did nothing. It's a phenomenon. I was like, why is this? So I joined, and I went around. I was doing a head of engineering role with them. Didn't last long in that space, by the way. But I was just understanding. They were all complaining on their own and everything. And so they did nothing. They were in this fearful, I'm not going to raise my head above a certain level because, I don't want to rock the boat kind of thing. And here's when I think, Kali, do you have a story or two for us in the space?
Are we on slide 10?
Are we on slide 10? This is slide 13, dude.
13 already? This is incompetence. I wrote that for no reason. 2. Everybody in this room is thoroughly addicted. You are addicts. You are addicted to food and shelter. So am I. And one comfort dweller profile is somebody, for example, who's new to a gig, new to Equal Experts, you don't really know what's going on, need to pay your mortgage, need to keep the Asda shop going. And when you see something that it's like, this is not cool, you're kind of conflicted because you also just want to keep your job, you don't have the relationship power, etc. And that's, for me, definitely when I joined Equal Experts, there was like some shit, I was like, this is not cool. But it's like, what can I do? I'm like 1 week in. Somebody's already made a complaint about me. Complaint was on the second week. The other one is, and I see this really often, we say, Equal Experts, we're all amazing. But so often I work with Equal Experts colleagues who go, I'm a contractor. I'm here, I'll come in, I'll do what I'm told, go home. Why do I need to get involved in that stuff?
So this has a negative impact on everyone, on Atticus, Deborah, Joe, and Atticus's new buddy there, and even the client, and also even for Equal Experts. If that's the T-shirt you knew you didn't need right there. So that's where ChatGPT fails. That's why we're still in a job for now, right? And so from an individual perspective, your influence fades if you stay quiet. You start to tolerate more than you would think that you would tolerate, and your wasted potential. I believe that everyone's in 3 modes all the time. You're either combative, you're going into work to defend or to fight. You're passive, just don't rock the boat. Or you're generative. And I'm lucky to I've worked with people who I find myself constantly in generative conversations. We're building on each other's ideas, it's great. It's honestly, not to sound cheesy, but it's like, wow, it's really productive in everything. Now, if you join a team that's very Deborah, Joe, and Atticus-like, if you come with that enthusiasm, like, dude, it's just easy there, whatever. But when you have everyone in the same frame of mind, amazing things happen, innovation happens. For the team, if I join a team that's dysfunctional and I do nothing about it and I tolerate it, I'm saying, yeah, that's cool, that's fine, that's perfectly fine. Psychological safety, it drops. I'm not going to speak up. To the client, the promises, we just deliver features or whatnot. There's no challenge. How are we getting through? How are we helping them be better? Because in order to grow, they need to go through challenges and difficult times. And nothing really improves. And this is interesting here. It's like, how might we measure the engagements that we're on for Equal Experts there? It's like, if we're on engagement and it's a transformational type, and they're bringing us in because they just don't want the outsourced developer to augment their staff, do we have a story after every engagement to go out there and say, here, we have this story now. We have another compelling story. This is how we did it. If we've not, then surely we're missing a trick somewhere. So, and things don't just end there and then. Now, this is a fake quote, but I'm sure that had Kurt been working at Equal Experts, he would say the same thing. Things just fade away. And it fades away for no good reason, because we knew better. We knew better. But here's a real quote, if you read the blogins. It challenges us. And we're not here to take notes and nod politely. We need to get out of our lanes, thoughtfully, courageously, to add value. We need to speak up, help shift the course, and leave things better than we found them. And this quote here is by the boss. Not the boss, but our boss, yeah? So, fire seekers. This is just my introspective. This is what guides me on a day-to-day basis. Am I infinitely curious? Do I love solving problems? But more importantly, do I have the courage to act on those 2 things? And me saying, yeah, I'm curious about a lot of stuff, Dave, and I'd love to solve problems. I'm not going to talk to the CTO. I'm not going to talk to the boss of the client. You're not part of their staff. They hired you for a reason. You just need to practice it. You need to do it, to be comfortable talking to these different people. Don't be so intimidated by talking to someone who's very senior or talking to a room full of people here, full of friendly and not so friendly faces. Hey, Rita. And I think the most important thing here is the ground truth. I'm not going to interpret what Cully's doing, or what Rob's doing, or what Simon's doing. I'm not going to create this manufactured, convenient reality of the world. What I want to do, I want to hear from them, because they're very experienced. They're very well paid. They not only do their job, but they went through a consultancy interview to get through their job. Oh. Dweller. So.
Dave, do you know that person?
No.
Dave, after this, find him and apologise, because you probably made them feel really shit.
I'll find him. I promise. So let's revisit Deborah Jo and how she's changed. Now she's got these fire-seeking glasses on. She's an active listener with patience. And she'll approach any individual at the right time to ask transformative questions, tough questions. She has empathy. When she gets rebuttals, who here has ever come up with something at a client and they've given you a rebuttal? They've said, oh, come on. Oh, no, this is right. We welcome rebuttals. This is what we do. Because it takes, like, as an architect, imagine I come up with a design, I present it to somebody, and they're like, no, I don't think so. I didn't do it myself, so this is not good. Rita, can you go tell that guy that I'm sorry? And we have courage. Courage in front of EE and our clients. And we rather feel the pain now instead of feeling the pain of being present at a wash-up explaining why we didn't act. Yeah? And one thing here, I believe strongly, is that no matter what you're doing at the client, collaborate, but always have an exit strategy. Am I leaving these guys in the lurch if I leave now? Are they able to thrive and do good for themselves without equal experts being present? And lastly, have deep thoughts about stuff. Be curious and have deep thoughts. And this leads me to my original slide, which is basically making EE redundant for the right reasons. Not early on, not at the sales pitch, not when we're marketing and all that stuff. Make them redundant when the time is right. So, the right posture. We're not members of permanent staff. We need to we need to be courageous and curious. One time I was working at a broadcaster, and we were a floor of people, 4 senior developers there, and our lead developer was there, and or the tech lead or architect, and somebody walks in demanding that we work weekends, demanding that we deliver faster and whatnot. And I had no idea who this guy was, but I just didn't say anything. But our leader, our tech leader, he said, hey, who are you, by the way, coming in and barking at us like this? I was like, wow, man, that took courage to do. I wouldn't have done that. But he did that because he saw that he didn't know the guy, and then he assumed that we didn't know the guy because we joined after him, and he might just feel like, hey, this isn't right. Why are you talking to us in this manner? That's courage. I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that on board with me moving into the future. And being consultative. So helping a client who is maybe, so let me give you an example. So for example, if we have a client and we have some bad news for them, the best way to go about this is to build that relationship. And we see this at one of our clients with Martin right now, at one of our German clients. He has the forum now to give them this feedback and whatnot. If you don't have that relationship, how can you have the courage? I mean, I'm sure it took courage to give them feedback anyway, but not having a relationship is even more difficult in that regard. And it's all about good storytelling, but also balancing your communication frequency. So someone told me it's exhausting. It's exhausting to constantly go and try to fix these things. And that's right. You shouldn't. Because imagine the client hearing day in, day out, you have all this low-hanging fruit. You're like, oh, tell me about this. I was like, oh, geez, okay, take it easy kind of thing. Sometimes, I got some really good advice here. Sometimes I just want you to shut up and listen instead of trying to solve all my problems. I receive this advice once every 2 weeks, for example. Any guesses who this person is? Wife, correct. And so something I learned from being a father of a 10-year-old girl is choose your battles. Yeah? Choose your battles. Just because you, okay, not because, it's great to be a solver of something, right? To reckon, oh, that's wrong, here's how you're going to solve it. And it's great, you have that, it sort of fills your ego, right? You're like, okay, yeah, I'm adding value here. But if you do it too often, then you come across as just being, oh, come on, this guy's always talking about the same stuff over and over again. So choose your battles. And it saves you this, the energy, if you will. So, I know I'm running a little late on time, but what we need to do now is understand what's tolerable versus not tolerable. And so this is a little bit participation here, but what we're going to do here, I'm going to go through each one of these 5 things that I have here, or maybe we'll do 3 because of time. And I don't want people to raise their hands and say, oh, that's tolerable, that's not tolerable. But think to yourself, what clarifying question might you ask to gain more insight? So, there's a critical incident, it occurred, there's no write-up, no learning, and no mention of it whatsoever. It gets swept under the rug. What's a clarifying question?
Hey Dave, so this is a real life example. I'm currently AXA, there was an incident that ran for 2 weeks and claims were affected over those 2 weeks. We got involved, got it sorted, but then it was like, okay, it's done now. So the conversation I used while leveraging the existing relationship with somebody in incident management was, hey, bog standard. A lot of effort went into that to prevent that happening again so we can understand the contributing causes. Can I run the post-mortem? Nothing for you to do. I'll pull people together and get it done.
Right. Another one is the CTO is reviewing pull requests.
Dave,
Yeah.
you're CTO. It's a bit weird because you're standing behind me, and I thought we would be like, yeah, okay. No, if you stand there, yeah, that's better, yeah. Dave, you're the CTO. When I see you reviewing pull requests, it makes me think that either you're not concentrating on strategies, talking to our customers, and working across the teams and giving us what a CTO needs, or you don't trust us.
Yeah.
What do you think? But it is that thing of leaving it open.
Exactly. It's all of the above. Essentially, I'm a new CTO, but I love developing, so I'll gravitate towards what I'm good at because I suck at a CTO, for example.
I was looking for Mark, because we've had that conversation in real life.
Right, and just one last one. We're using Jira in a slightly awkward way, but everyone understands it. Yeah, I mean, would you raise a kerfuffle because of that? What would you do? Or would you just say, hey, it's fine. It's not a fire worth fighting. So for fire seekers or for aspiring fire seekers like myself, it will always be capturing, ABC. Not always be acting, but always be capturing. This is the key difference here. You are the ground truth. And if you're thinking, I'm not a fire seeker, of course you are. We're asked to be fire seekers in everyday life. For example, neighborhood watch. Middle-aged people peering behind the curtains, yeah? There we go, you're a fire seeker. You're reporting something when it's not quite right. Crime stoppers, have you seen this person? And when you're up and around, it's like, hey, I saw that person. Don't approach him, but you're helping in that regard. Or for example, who here took the underground this morning? With me now. See it, say it. Every journey matters, apparently. Crowdsourcing intelligence. That's where we're at. It's the ground truth. And now, here's the thing. Here's the big challenge we have. Who here has observed something and was itching to say something about it but didn't know where to go or how to go about it? Right. Who here is a great storyteller about witnessing something, articulating in a way that resonates with the business and with technology, and so you can get to the essence of the problem? This, there's always one. We need to create the right environment and not overly burden our consultants with this fire seeking. It needs to be pragmatic. The most important thing, though, for engagement management is to give our consultants a voice, a channel, a frictionless channel. And I'm working, if you want, we can talk afterwards, but I'm working on this frictionless feedback mechanism using some AI tools and stuff we've been cooking up and everything. So we're looking at, well, how can they best get to us to capture ABC, that information? And second thing is once we have that information, imagine not doing anything with that information. Well, that sucks. I'm not going to continually capture if you're not going to do anything with that information. So it's the burden of the engagement management. Whoever is working, is responsible for the relationship with the client or to help, to guide, to say, with this information, I'm going to do something with it. And then if to do something with it, it doesn't quite end there. The client needs to be ready to hear it. Does the client know that we're actually fire seekers? We're not just developers or a product or people just doing the day job. So this whole ecosystem needs to be created if it's not there. And if it's there, and we invest in that, then our consultants will say, hey, there's a nice channel for me to use. I'm making a difference in this space. And hand on heart, I think that fire seekers, if you give them this opportunity, they can make changes stick. So I want to leave you with something where fires can be both visible and invisible. They can represent something that we want to prevent or an opportunity. For example, I heard this story, it gets told a lot, where, hey, you know what we did at this client? They were manually doing their documentation. Some guy, or person, or woman, whatever, said, why don't we automate that? And they had all these savings. Leading up to that, why had no one observed that and said, this is what we should be doing? Why? What does it take to do that? And if you apply that posture to everything you're doing day in, day out, you're just observing. Sometimes you capture things, sometimes you're just observing, sometimes you're saying, hey, I want to escalate this. Think of how we can be agents for change. And then if the client says, you know what, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear anything about what you'll have to offer. I'm not buying any of that. Well, maybe it's time to pull the cord. Maybe. It's nice to get paid, but I don't think we should value our success by how long contracts extend for. It's about how able we were to make change. That's the talk. And here is a QR code in order for you to help make a difference. It's from Adam here. He's doing a survey on pair programming, and he would love your feedback so we can take better, more informed decisions about how we interview, how we consult, and how we handle this craft of pair programming. This is not to be confused with that man over there, Craig. Craig is one of the main organizers of this event, and he too has a QR code. It's not shared on the screen, but it's shared on the wall here, and he would love your feedback as well. And so with that, I thank you for choosing to spend the time with me today and with Kali. I thank you for all the participants. Thank you so much, everyone.